Is the video choppy for you, Nick?
Just slightly, but not too bad.
The video's choppy for me. I hope.
That was.
Is the audience seeing it choppy?
It was a little choppy, yeah, but you could see it pretty easy. It wasn't horrible choppy.
Did we see the LifeSite article last year about Obama, NSA involvement, Benedict XVI's resignation, source from high-level Italian intelligence? Oh, no, we might have to look that up.
That'd be pretty.
Yeah. So, well, we have a lot to get to tonight. Well, first off, what a missed opportunity with the Olympics thing.
For real, bro. Such cringe.
No, but what I'm telling you is, I like even the Catholic Unscripted guys who have less subs than us got like 100,000 views on their video. Taylor got 1 million views on his video. Candace Owens hit over 1 million views on her video. Like, we missed the opportunity to get on and just jump on and talk about it.
You were busy at Catholic Palooza and I was out of town.
Yeah, just didn't work, man. Like, it was one of those things.
Bro, you guys should have called me and just said, Nick, jump on our channel.
You have access.
I do, but you know, if I was to just take over like that, who knows what Avoiding Babylon might turn into. So
we might become respectable or something.
We might become respectable.
So and I have so many thoughts on that whole situation too. So before we get to that, we'll do our little plugs. We got locals tonight. We're definitely doing locals tonight. So if you guys are not on our locals channel, please subscribe. We have to come up with a tier system, Rob. Like, we have to make so people can donate more. Somebody tipped me
they can donate. They can choose to give us whatever.
Oh, okay. Well, we should still come up with a tier system. Somebody tipped me on Twitter the other day. I have a tip.
Stop tweeting, because if so, I think I'll pay for that.
Just make all the audience pay 50 cents for each comment they want to get highlighted, and that will.
I have a tip jar at the top of my Twitter account, and somebody tipped me, but they were tipping me because they found our show, and they were like, "Hey, man, my friend recommended your show. Just want to say keep up the great work." So it
must have been an episode from like 1.5 years ago when you were still throwing out your Twitter tip jar.
Maybe I guess. I don't know.
I just think every morning you should be like, if I make $50 in tips in the next half an hour, I won't tweet again today, and I guarantee you'll make $50
a day.
That's a genius money scheme, to be honest.
Yeah, I have a tip jar on Twitter. It's at the top of my Twitter page. You guys didn't know that? You guys should tip me on Twitter. It's a good place to tip me.
Yeah, because it goes only to him.
Yes, I don't have to split that with Rob. That is pretty ruthless. Okay.
Nick, if you ever just do an episode on her channel, this is what you should call it.
I should totally just do it without either of your permission randomly on like a Sunday night. And you're like, what the heck is going on? That'd be too funny.
I would do an entire, but I would practice it before we did it. Do you want to know what's funny? Okay, so so Enoch came in this weekend. We went to Catholic Palooza together. I met a ton of people at Catholic Palooza. They were very nice. A lot of fans of the show. I was really impressed with how many new converts were there. Like, I mean, listen, this wasn't my scene. These were like 20-something-year-old Catholics going to watch like concerts and stuff. But I will say this: when Enoch got on, he lit the place up, man. Like, they went ballistic for Enoch. They loved him. But I got to spend the weekend with Enoch, which was awesome. I took him into Manhattan. I took him to Trump Tower. I took him to St. Pat's Cathedral, St. Vincent Ferrer, and Holy Innocents. We go to Holy Innocents, hit confession, and when we come out, we go to Mass. Now, the Mass is being said by the Chinese priest.
I was going to say, did he have confession with the Chinese priest?
No, but Mass was being said by the Chinese priest who I originally impersonated. So, and then he came back to my house. We went on the boat Sunday. Then we came back. We cooked the feast. He got to meet my wife. We had a really, really good weekend. I got to meet a bunch of people. I took Enoch to his first SSPX Mass.
Let's go.
And people recognized us at the Mass, both of us. People came up to him. People came up to me. It was pretty fun. But we also have a merch store where we have you accepted Mary as your personal mother and intercessor bumper stickers and T-shirts, which people loved that shirt when I was there.
Yeah, too bad no one bought it. I checked.
Oh, I should have brought 50 of them. But I got so many compliments on that shirt.
Did you print out the flyer I sent you?
I did. It wasn't like,
I know it wasn't that
it wasn't like a table set up or anything. And we are going to make a new shirt that says 1000%
Let's
in
go.
quotes Nicholas Cavazos.
Let's
So
go.
if anybody
Let's go.
that one will be coming very soon. Rob will make that. So if you guys want to buy the new shirt, it's just gonna say 1000% Nicholas Cavazos. So
1000% approve of that idea. Sounds epic.
I'll need to somehow put your face onto like a Trump pose to put behind it.
you gotta
Let's
get
go.
a picture of Nick in a Trump hat.
I can send you one. That'd be easy.
A picture of Nick in a MAGA hat, and it just says 1000% Nicholas Cavazos.
Otherwise, I have that AI photo I did of you in the Confederate outfit.
Oh yeah. I actually really like the idea of me in a MAGA hat with saying 1000%. I would totally wear that. That actually sounds epic.
So, yeah, 1000%, etc. Do you say that? Do you say etc.?
I do.
You do.
I do. Guilty.
All right, so now we can get into stuff. So, the Olympics thing we got to talk about first, because do they make MAGA cowboy hats? I'm sure.
I don't know if the Trump campaign does, but I've totally seen them at the rallies. So
Okay. So what we because everybody did the Olympic opening ceremony conversation. Everybody, I mean, obviously everybody knows it was a mockery of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. One of my biggest tweets ever on that controversy, because I said, notice they always mock Catholicism and not Protestantism.
Yeah.
And everybody got upset at that, but it's the truth, right? It's the truth, because there are no depictions of the Last Supper in Protestantism. That, I mean, maybe Anglicanism or like that, maybe, but nothing like the idea.
There's no big ones.
No, and the idea of the sacred image is very Catholic, and in a way, this whole ordeal even proved why sacred images are so important.
Well, yeah, the left are making their own now.
mm-hmm.
Right. So if we don't have sacred images of our own, they kind of just fill that space. And the thing they are mocking is our sacred image. And it almost, as they're mocking it, it proves the truth of the claim, even.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, it's one of those things that you really, how would you mock Protestantism?
Hold on, Nick. I need the 1000%.
How is Anthony so good at engagement farming on X? It's because mentally he's a 17-year-old.
1000%.
1000% true. I've seen Anthony's Twitter on a few occasions.
They bring, the thing at the Dodger Stadium.
Right?
Yeah.
It's always Catholicism that they mock. It's always us. It's never. I mean, look, I think in a way, Protestants kind of, I don't want to, this is mean, but they kind of mock themselves.
Well, it's like, what would they even use for Protestantism to mock? Because mocking is something where you need some type of symbol to mock.
Mm-hmm.
And if your religion is void of symbols, then what do you mock? The only thing I can think of is like back in the day when Westboro Baptist was in the news for all the millennials that were out there. People would go out and they would just, do the homo thing out there in front of them. But aside from that, that's all I can really think of. You think of the Satanic Temple and black masses and stuff. It's all anti-Catholicism.
That and if they pick one thing to mock, that's only going to upset, 2 to 3% of Protestants, right? Because they're so different, so many different varieties.
They're not unified, right? There's no unity. That one of my other ones that went big was, I said, Protestants have been mocking the Last Supper for 500 years. This is nothing new for us.
100%. Yeah.
1000%, right? But the main thing about Catholicism, even with Orthodoxy, because people don't get the idea of cult, right? Somebody people constantly calling Catholicism a cult, and it's like, yes, we are the original cult of Jesus Christ. Like understanding creed, code, and cult. Creed is what you believe, code is how you live, and cult is how you worship. These three aspects are what unite a people. Mm-hmm. It's what brings us together. You don't have that unity in any other form of Christianity like you do under Roman Catholicism. There's not, you don't have that in Orthodox. You don't mock Orthodoxy. You never see mockery of Orthodoxy like that.
Well, it's because once again, they're not united. So you can mock the Russian Orthodox Church, which a lot have done with the whole war in Ukraine. But the Greek Orthodox are going to cheer that on because they don't like the Russians. You mock the Greeks and the Russians are going to cheer it. So
Yeah.
once again, there's no
Yeah.
unity there.
Yeah, that's the unifying principle behind our faith is that it's the universal church. There's nothing that even comes close to the Catholic Church. We are universal in that it doesn't matter your ethnicity, it doesn't matter where you live, you can be brought into this cult. Now, what I noticed bringing Enoch to Mass on Sunday, because we went to confession at Holy Innocents and came out to a unicorn Novus Ordo. It was a unicorn Novus Ordo. It was ad orientem. It was the whole nine. But we were sitting there and we come out of confession. I'm like, you want to just stay for Mass? And we're like, yeah, all right, we'll stay for Mass. It was a very reverent Novus Ordo, which is very hard to find. So, but while I'm sitting there, I realized I was reciting every single word the priest said. Like it's just ingrained in you from going to the Novus Ordo as a child and going to it all your life. And
do you mean that the priest said, or do you mean the responses?
Everything the priest was saying as he's consecrating the host, everything, like word for word, I was able to recite the entire thing. I might miss a word here or there, but like as he's going, I'm able to recite it all. And when we got out, we had this whole conversation about how the Novus Ordo just took the mystery away from what's happening at the Mass. Like we had like an hour-long discussion on how all the transcendence and mystery is just not there. The idea of the priest reciting the Roman canon in silence at the altar lends to that mystery. And if you read the missal, the missal I have actually has this whole paragraph about how since time immemorial the Roman canon has been recited in silence to lend itself to that mystery, so that you're not really supposed to know exactly what the priest is saying up there, because it's the mystery of faith. Now it's the mystery of faith, and it just takes all of that away. And then when you get into seeing how different every single Novus Ordo Mass is, it fractures us as Catholics. So you have a Spanish Novus Ordo over here, and you have the English Novus Ordo over here. Then you have the progressive Novus Ordo Church here, and you have the more conservative one over here. And even in the Novus Ordo world, people are traveling 3 parishes over to go to a conservative Novus Ordo because they have a liberal priest at this one. And you just think about what that did to the church itself and fractured the unity that we do. Now, we still do have unity, and we do unite around the Pope and certain things, but ever since the Novus Ordo was introduced, you don't have this unified front as the Catholic faith anymore. And when they mock us, they don't mock the Novus Ordo, they mock the traditional faith.
Yeah, I'm glad that you got to go to a reverent Talmudic service, because they're rare out there. Unicorn Talmud prayers, maybe in Latin. You get your Talmud prayers in Latin. It's really cool. I think that the main issue, of course, is I would actually push back and I would say I don't really think Catholics have. Catholicism always has intrinsic unity, right? But I think the vast majority of individuals who, whether it's through ignorance or whether it's through malicious, don't actually have unity. And the reason I say this is because when you look at the creed, we believe in one holy Catholic and apostolic church. That phrase "one" in the catechisms just means that we believe in the same doctrine, right? In the same doctrine, we're of one body, one communion, one baptism, etc. And I don't think that we all, quote unquote, under the church believe in the same doctrine. I don't think that one realistically can say we, like, even between the two masses, we hold the same conception of sacrifice. I mean, because literally, if one of them is, let's de-emphasize the propitiatory nature to placate to Protestants, throw some Talmud prayers in there. And then the other one is, this is in seed form, goes back to St. Peter the Apostle, and over 1900 years organically develops. Things that are different aren't the same. And so I think that at the end of the day, if people want consistency, they have to just return to the traditional faith.
I mean, it's why we feel such a need to put descriptors in front of our Catholicism, right? It's why, you have trad Catholics or conservative Catholics or what have you, because when I say I'm Catholic to someone, I don't want them to think that I'm the type of Catholic that thinks the death penalty is as, wrong as abortion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't, because I'm not that. Well, number one, that's not Catholic,
Mhm.
and I want to make that clear, and I can only do so by saying I'm a traditional Catholic. Or
Yeah, exactly. And it's sad because, as I've said before, Catholicism is not an Overton window religion. That whole idea was inserted in the 60s when everything just became up to grabs. Because if the mass can be changed, I mean, just think about how crazy this is. If the actual Roman rite can be changed and gutted, then what else is up for grabs?
everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Strange times we're in, man. But I thought it was interesting how even when they do mock us, like even when you look at the thing at Dodger Stadium, they were mocking nuns in habits,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right?
Didn't
They're
they
not,
also do like a drag crucifixion scene at
yeah,
Dodger Stadium?
Yep.
Yeah, it was
yeah.
wild.
I mean, look, they always do the drag thing, right? It's the one thing that makes you see how satanic it really is.
Exactly.
It's because look, this is their transubstantiation, right? So transubstantiation, we believe that the bread and wine remain the same in appearance, but the substance is changed. They change in appearance and the substance stays the same, but it's an inversion of transubstantiation. It is religious I mean, everything about it is religious in it, what they're doing. What they performed there was a satanic ritual. It's not just about we were offended. Like, I'm not offended that, I mean, I am offended, but it's more so that nobody does anything about it. Nobody cares anymore. Like France, you have Notre Dame Cathedral there. You have this, they're the eldest daughter of the church, and they just allow the faith to be trampled like that without even a protest, without anything. I put in a clip of Andrew Tate, I think. Did you see that in the thing, Rob?
Yeah,
I did. Actually, like, and again, like, we all have our criticisms of Andrew Tate, the good, the bad, the ugly, but props to him for actually saying what needed to be said in this clip.
But it's, and I also sent an article where even like Muslim clerics were coming out and speaking out against this. It's like that they would never mock Islam, but even the Muslims understand this is shockingly offensive.
Yeah, because I mean, in
Right.
their religion, like, Christ is at least a prophet, and so they're going to be offended by this because it's betraying, in their mind, one of the prophets in a bad sense. I know the SSPX protested against it because in all of the chapels yesterday in France, they were supposed to do acts of reparation after all the masses, and all of the priests were commanded to give homilies, basically rebuking this. And so, in French, apparently, one sermon that's going viral on the French side of the internet is the SSPX sermon from Notre Dame de Chardonnay, or Saint Nicholas de Chardonnay in Paris, where the priest is just railing against it. So props to him.
Yeah, play that Andrew Tate clip real quick. Just listen to what he says.
Guys, I believe most of you are Christians. I'm a Muslim. Yes, this is Romania, supposed to be the most Christian country in Europe. You cannot allow them to desecrate something as important as the Last Supper with transsexuals and little children, pedophilia. There has to be a point you stand up to your beliefs. If you have something in life and you don't stand up for it, it will not last. If you have a house, you don't maintain it, it will fall down. Business, you don't work, it's gone. Relationship, you don't take care of her, she'll leave you. It's the same with religion. If you Christians don't start standing up for things, when they mock you publicly and openly, you'll have no religion left. It doesn't matter. It's a matter of time, especially now Romania and all these other countries have opened the border. Millions of people who come here are not Christian. And if you don't say this is a Christian country and we respect Christianity, they won't respect it either. It's the end. And it's the man's job. It's the job of men to defend things. This is what a man is supposed to do. It's man and woman for a reason, but the man is a fighter. The men have to stand up and fight against these things. Guys, this is supposed to be the most Christian country in Europe. When they try this crap again, I expect to see you all at the...
So,
props to him. Props to him.
Props to him. Look, and I know Bishop Barron came out and said something, which was great, but I haven't heard anything from Francis or the Vatican. I haven't heard like an uproar of bishops saying they're outraged, but you get Muslim leaders condemn disgraceful Olympic scene. It offended us as much as them. Top government officials in Iran and Turkey, along with other Muslim religious figures, are speaking out against this drag queen-led parody of the Last Supper at the Paris Olympics opening ceremony that shocked Christians and others across the world. the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah, whatever his name is. Insults against Jesus
Ali
Christ,
Khamenei.
noting that Jesus is a respected figure in Islam. Respect for Jesus Christ is an indisputable, definite matter for Muslims. So look, you have them coming out, right? And saying all this. You have Andrew Tate speaking up, but I don't see that many Christianly. I am grateful that Bishop Barron came out and said something. And he even came out and said something against their fake apology. Like they had a nonsense apology. Oh, we didn't mean to offend. That's nonsense. It's ridiculous. You did intend to offend, and you were actually shocked that you got any backlash. And to combat it, you have Olympics French DJ takes legal action after death threats over opening ceremony in Tableau. So Barbara Butch has said she is, I don't even know if those are her pronouns. Is this a girl or a man? Is Barbara Butch a dude?
Well, I have a feeling that if this individual says they're trans, whatever they look like, it's the opposite.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's the opposite.
Just gonna guess. Just gonna guess, y'all. I can't tell.
Has said it is a target of I'm not even gonna say that word. Threats from viewers who thought one section of the Olympic ceremony resembled Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. The French DJ and rainbow rights icon said it has filed police reports over targeted death threats for its participation in a section of the Olympics opening ceremony. So this is just propaganda to combat, like claiming that she was threatened or it was threatened. I honestly don't know what that is. Claiming that it was threatened is just them trying to combat and flip the bad behavior back on Christians. That's what that is. They're just trying to flip the bad behavior. I was given death threats and all this stuff. That's just a way for them to flip the narrative back on its head so that we're now the ones who are wrong again because we threatened violence. I don't believe a word of that. I don't think any violence was threatened. I think it's complete nonsense.
No, he, she, or they, I don't know. No, I don't know what it is. Got a threat, which probably translates into got criticism online. Didn't like the criticism online and do what leftists do best, which is gaslighting people. Leftists are the quintessential greatest gaslighters because they will say anything from milk is racist, math is racist, air conditionings are sexist, criticism of me is transphobic, yada, yada, yada. It doesn't really matter. But to your point, Anthony, you're right. There was not a whole lot of outcry from major public authorities. I saw Modern Papacy. He put it out the French bishops. I did see the French bishops comment on it, but I didn't really see them condemn it like in serious terms. And that's the issue, I think, is that
what's crazy is Novus Ordo Watch today posted Francis' response to the incident from last week. And Francis comes out and he says, things like this are horrific. No one should use their free speech to be offensive like this. The burning of the Quran is a reprehensible act. He was talking about, so if you burn the Quran, Francis will come out and condemn that. But silence. But it's kind of strange. I haven't heard much from Francis recently, right? Ever since American politics, I haven't heard anything from him.
No, I actually asked the Telegram chat. I said I have this suspicion that Pope Francis is like this synod in October, that this is going to be kind of the last thing Pope Francis does.
Like he's unwell.
Like I think he's on the way out. Like I would not.
You guys are gonna get me like the Biden thing. You guys are just getting me like the Biden thing. I know what you guys are up to. You're trying to make me think he's not in good shape. Wait, I didn't see Vigano's statement.
Well, he called Michelle Obama and Macron's
did he really?
Wife men.
I love it.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Let me tell you something. The Macron thing is legit. The Macron thing is legit. Like, if you really see the photo, I've been watching Candace Owens a little bit lately, and she shows you like some of the evidence. And show Bridget, whatever her name is. Show a picture of that thing.
Is there a conspiracy theory?
I'm just saying.
Is there a conspiracy theory that Macron is a woman?
No, it's that he married a man.
Oh, I gotcha.
That he married a man. And it's not just that, Nick. Like this his wife, whatever, was his teacher when he was 14 years old.
Yes.
So the whole thing is
that's a fact. Regardless.
That's a fact. So the whole thing is this is
The French,
a trans. All right, so that's really a dude.
Well,
Was his teacher at 14 and groomed him. Come on, man.
I'm not gonna say yay or nay to that, but I'm just gonna say wasn't really a trophy wife in the end. That's just all I'm gonna say.
No, but the thing is, when people get old, it is hard to tell. Like the old queens can pull it off better than the young ones.
Put the sex is coming up, Rob. Quick, put the sex is coming up.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I mean, I'm serious though. I think.
Well,
I think
that's my point. What Sean said, right? So some women do just age poorly.
Yeah.
So it is hard to.
Especially when you're evil. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see. My whole point was just I do think Pope Francis, I don't think it's gonna be another year. I think he's out the door.
Don't get Anthony all worked up. Now.
I'm just saying, I was told this about Biden. He's, Rob texted me. He's like, I don't know, man. This guy might be coming out on a any day now. I'm like,
what did you say right after that?
I said, I think so too. But that was my point about in that last episode. I said that whole story was, but it was so weird what they did.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can understand why people would think he was dead just because Homeboy was gone for multiple days.
5 days.
And then, even in the signature for his, he quits on Twitter. His staff doesn't even know that he quit until they found out on Twitter.
Put the letter on letterhead.
Exactly. Exactly. And then his signature was all screwed up. So, it's kind of understandable for all of us to be like, yo, what the heck? Where did the leader of the free world go? He's gone. Yeah, Pope Francis resigns on Twitter.
How freaking hilarious would that be? The conspiracies that would come out.
Probably we would have some YouTubers try to add that to the New Testament. I don't know.
No, you know what? There. He resigned on Twitter. He didn't resign the Moonis.
Yeah, that was the joke I made with Biden. I said all right, so wait, should we get into the main story and then we'll do some of the other things we got?
We should cover the lead. Yes, we're
all right. So we won't bury the lead.
Just cover the lead, and we can talk about. I sent a couple of interesting political ones in the chat that are relevant, like the text messages and stuff from the FBI. You heard all this story and stuff for the last few days?
Yeah, I've heard some of it.
Yeah. We'll get into political stuff after this. So okay, so the title for the show. The U.S. State Department had a mole in the Vatican feeding them information about how to interfere with the 1958 conclave so a moderate would be elected. Eventually, Angelo Roncalli emerged victorious. Months later, he announced his intention to hold Vatican II. So the document, this is a State Department document dated October 11th, 1958.
Yep. And this was declassified, it looks like March of 1990.
How come this came up in the news today? This is just somebody on Twitter just popped this up?
I think so just because Tim Flanders has talked about this before multiple times back in the day.
There was an interview, I forget on the channel, someone said it in the Telegram chat. Dr. Robert Moynihan, maybe?
Oh, yeah. He
interviewed someone who wrote a book about a lot of Vatican Bank corruption over the last century. And this was mentioned during there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's why it was resurfaced recently.
So look, we know the CIA was involved in the council itself. There was a lot of Jewish involvement. There was a lot of CIA involvement. They were trying to get different documents put through. They weren't successful on some fronts, but they were on others. But okay, so limited distribution. During conversation with embassy officer, Vatican source expressed personal view next pope will be elected outside conclave by agreement between cardinals. Source said Pius XII elected this manner.
Basically, Pius XII was elected in that manner.
Okay, so now this is before John Paul II comes out with his rules saying, right? So John Paul II changes canon law about papal elections, saying they cannot be held outside. You can't
There can't be like outside influence pressuring some cardinals to vote a certain way.
Right, and
It
you
can be
also
legitimate.
can't like what would they call that? Like I don't not petition, but like canvassing and things like that for
Right.
some particular candidate, right? And recalled that as cardinals were entering the 1939 conclave, Cardinal Pizzardo had called him aside and asked him to prepare a biographical sketch of Pacelli. Added he consulted with Monsignor Montini and both decided for obvious reasons not to go ahead with Pizzardo's request. So what was his request? Let's see.
So Cardinal Pizzardo, whoever this source is, which the source isn't named, Cardinal Pizzardo called this person aside and asked this person to prepare a biography of Pacelli. Pacelli became Pius XII, right?
Okay, so I got you. So this was CIA wanted basically what do they call that when they do research on like opposition research?
Opposition research, yeah.
Yeah, they wanted opposition research on Pius XII.
Now Montini is Montini
It's
Paul the Sixth?
Paul the Sixth, isn't he?
Yeah. So this source and Montini, Paul the Sixth, decided not to follow that request, basically.
Okay. Speculating on Pius XII's successor source.
The source for this.
Okay. Said college may very well choose an old cardinal whose short pontificate may be devoted entirely to the reorganization of the Roman Curia left by deceased pope in deplorable state. Source indicated election of
Siri, Ruffini,
Ottaviani would be misfortune for church, since the three cardinals have had it's hard for me to read this, have an unrealistic approach to great problems facing the world today.
Oh, brother, that's great. Just because if anybody knows those names,
Ottaviani was the one, the Ottaviani intervention.
Yeah.
These are the guys who helped write the Ottaviani.
These were hard conservatives.
They were. Ottaviani was the head of the Holy Office, so he was part of that strict Orthodox group in the council. So it's very funny. It's very
okay. Funny. So indicate an election of Siri, Ruffini, Ottaviani would be. I think it's Ottaviani would be misfortune for the church, since the three cardinals have an unrealistic approach to the great problems facing the world today. Source said election of any one of the three could depend on influence of American cardinals and volunteered suggestions. U.S. authorities would do well to exercise discreetly their own influence on certain American cardinals.
And I think Cardinal Siri was the one, I think Father Murr talks about him in Murder in the 33rd Degree. He was the one, was he the one in Genoa that was helping Gagnon do the investigation?
Yeah, he was one of the
the Freemasons.
On the Freemasons, and Siri was a huge anti-communist cardinal.
Right.
Yeah, so the CIA wrote fake stuff to prevent popes we would have wanted from being chosen. Now, this just shows you how much the CIA, the State Department, the American deep state has their tentacles in church politics, even. Like, so all of us are hopeful that we'll get a conservative pope next, or we want a traditional pope. I don't think there's many options for that. I really don't. I don't think there are many traditional cardinals.
No, the closest you could maybe give an argument for is Burke, but I wouldn't say in like the classic full sense of being trad.
No, and he's also unelectable. He's an American. He's 85 at this point now.
I say he can't be elected, right?
He can be elected. He can't vote.
Yeah, technically.
Oh, that's right.
Any baptized Catholic male can technically hold the office, and so maybe there'll be a insane attempt, and we'll have I'll be elected pope. You never know.
Well, he will be
1,000%.
Burke will be at the conclave. He just won't be able to vote. I think 75 is voting, right? Or is it 80?
Anthony, you're African, and all the Africans that live in Rome know.
Oh, he's under 80. He's still eligible to vote. Okay, I thought Burke. I mean, Burke's he's getting older. I thought he was over 80. Well, that's good. Maybe he'll have some influence at the conclave. But
I bet he will.
I don't think they'd vote for you for Pope. I mean, look at the last time we had a Spaniard as Pope.
So true. So true. Plus, I don't think people would like me because I'd be that type of guy where I'd like come out.
Wasn't Alexander the
onto-
Sixth the last Spaniard Pope?
Yes.
That's my favorite. Let's go.
Yeah, I'd come out, but it'd be too much because I'd come out with like a papal tiara on, but then when I took the papal tiara off, you would see a MAGA hat.
MAGA.
Yeah, no, I just okay. So now that also, you clearly have to think, was Francis handpicked by the State Department? I mean, there's a very
I think the only one that maybe hasn't been handpicked by the State Department since Paul VI.
Benedict,
On it. No, well,
John Paul I.
yeah, because he was probably murdered.
Yeah, he was probably taken out by them.
So that interview that I mentioned that Dr. Robert Moynihan did, I listened to the first part of it today, and I didn't get to this part, but they talked about how it is very possible that Pius XI was actually assassinated too,
Oh, interesting.
because he was about to publish the day after he died. He was supposed to publish a very harsh condemnation of Nazi Germany. That
Yeah.
would have
Oh, I
ended,
read that. Yeah.
that would have ended the German church tax and would have meant a ton of money lost for the Vatican.
Oh, if only that could have been, because then we wouldn't be dealing with Catholics who try to say that Mustache Man and Maximilian Kolbe are in the same religion and both based. Yeah, no, that would be interesting. It reminds me of when Pius XII, before he died, he actually had an encyclical that people can go and read online. That was his full-fledged condemnation of the Nouvelle Theologie. It literally it was like a syllabus of errors style. It gave out like multiple different heretical propositions, but then homeboy died. It's like, goodness grief. It's so bad.
Look, we know that the State Department's going to meddle in everything they can. That's what they do. But we could still have hope, right? It's not like they can, God is more powerful than the State Department. And
like, if you believe in divine providence, whoever goes into that conclave and comes out as Pope is going to be Pope because God is the one who chose it for our blessing or our chastisement. We don't have to worry about it. In the long run, though, your discussion on the State Department meddling around in things since particularly like the 40s and 50s, that's all documented in, I think it's the book, Not an Empire, but a Republic by Patrick Buchanan. Shout out to Patrick Buchanan, still alive. Probably one of my favorite political philosophers of all time. He ran for president a couple times and worked in the Nixon administration, but old school paleocon. But he talks about, since World War II, we've had the State Department, the CIA, FBI, all the three-letter agencies, etc., meddle around in other people's stuff, while at the same time we allow our roads to go unpaved here, our veterans to be homeless, mass immigration to come across our border and take jobs, etc. We got to think of our own.
Yeah, it's just, man, you hope above all of the nonsense that we just come out of the next conclave with a man of God. Like, you really want the next Pope to take the Catholic faith seriously. I mean, just to try and right this ship a little bit. I mean, it might be one of those things that we just don't see in our lifetime, but I also think 2024 is going so crazy that even the Olympics thing, like, I don't think we've seen anything yet. Just that imagery we saw, the whole thing with Trump in the last week. You just think about all the imagery being thrown at us. I think that this year is just going to get exceedingly more and more crazy as we approach the election and as we approach that synod. It just seems like things are just escalating and amplifying rapidly.
Yeah, that's the nature of just the world. Every 4 years, everything kind of just goes off. But I think it's exciting because if people actually, decide to do something about it, that they can be involved. As an example, I have now almost 20 guys signed up to go and do election canvassing with me up in one of the Rust Belt states. So viewers who are out there, if you want, message me. And if you live in like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin and stuff, come say hey.
So what are you doing? You're registering people to vote?
No, so actually I got in touch specifically with the Trump campaign. And so what we're going to be doing is going to one of these battleground states, going to a really hotly contested county and doing a number of things from legal ballot chasing to registering new voters, phone calls, knocking on doors, talking to undecided voters, talking to independents, and also making sure just Republicans get out and vote themselves instead of just being complacent and sitting there.
Go to Kenosha. Just make sure to bring your AR.
So true, bro. So true. We're definitely gonna go over to where the famous shooting took place and just take it all in, because that's some history, in Butler.
We got a couple stories we could touch on next. We got priest offers mass in a swimming pool.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
We got California dad wins custody of his son whose mother was trying to transition him. We got,
as I get older and consider marriage, I've been considering more and more a prenup, which I just never thought I'd ever be considering in my life, but just of how crazy things are getting. I'm like,
well,
maybe
that
this
is
isn't a
true.
bad idea. Maybe this
what
is a
about
bad idea.
What about the 3 kids in UK? The 3 little kids in the UK thing that
man.
just happened. I didn't even know. I just started hearing about this like 10, 15 minutes ago.
Oh, really? Oh, no, that happened yesterday, and now there's like full-scale riots going on.
What
Sounds
is
like the English might actually be rising up.
Ooh.
I think they're burning like
Police
vehicles
stations.
outside of mosques and
Yeah.
stuff. And now the UK is putting out stories through their propaganda arm saying this is the EDL, the English Defense League or something. So Taylor Swift and
Oh, do you have an article on it?
I sent an article there, yeah. Taylor Swift in shock after fatal stabbing of 3 kids at dance class celebrating her music.
First off, why the hell would you put Taylor Swift? Who the hell cares what Taylor Swift feels like about the 3 kids just being murdered?
So
sorry, that pisses me off.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
Taylor
you,
Swift said Tuesday that she was completely in shock after 3 This is the only story I could find on this.
Thank you, JD, for the super chat. First off, funny that JD, because vice presidential nominee. But yeah, people are in Pennsylvania. Go out and support President Trump at the Butler rally. He's going back.
Okay, so Taylor Swift said Tuesday that she was completely in shock after 3 children were killed at a dance workshop celebrating her music in a British seaside town. 8 other children were injured, 5 of them critically in what police call a ferocious knife attack. Not a terrorist attack. Monday in Southport, a seaside town in northwest England near Liverpool. On Tuesday, authorities announced the 3rd child had died. 3 of the victims were named by police. We don't have to say their names. 2 adults were also critically injured. They tried to defend the children, the force said. The horror of yesterday's attack in Southport is washing over me continuously, and I'm just completely in shock, Swift said. These were just little kids at dance class, she added. This is what they are, the Mohammedans are doing. No words can describe this. I don't care what Taylor Swift says.
Well,
right. No words can
Taylor Swift.
Okay. No words can describe the devastation that has hit our family as we try to deal with the loss of our little girl, BB King's family said. Keep smiling and dancing like you love to do, our princess. Like we said before to you, you're always our princess, and no one would change that. The comments came as local police left flowers and stuffed animals in tribute at a police cordon near where the incident took place in town, which is famed for its beach and pier. Britain's prime minister visited the seaside town. But I want to hear what happened.
So what it was.
Okay, here we go. Okay, you scroll down a little. Police said a 17-year-old boy was arrested in connection with the attack. Investigators said he was from a nearby village of Banks, but did not offer a motive. However, they said the attack was not being treated as terror-related, and no one else was believed to be connected. This is a 17-year-old guy. He's an immigrant. His parents are from Rwanda.
They say he was born in Cardiff, but yes, his parents are Rwandan, and I would imagine they're Muslim.
Man, this is nuts. So basically, England right now. Let's see if we can find anything. Southport riots. Let's see, Southport.
So it does say here there was a protest outside a mosque in Southport, and police were attacked by a crowd of men, many of whom were wearing masks and hoodies. Some chanted far-right slogans, probably like, I don't know, don't kill our kids. That's probably far-right in Britain.
So extreme.
Okay, so I got it here. Riot police on the scene at a mosque in Southport as angry crowds throw bricks, set off fireworks after multiple children were stabbed in the Taylor Swift themed dance class. Officers are believed to have sustained injuries as chaotic scenes unfold with men, several wearing. I sent this to the chat, Rob. Balaclavas, throw loose bits of masonry and shout England until I die. So a police van.
England until I die is considered far right now.
Just like Make America Great Again. Like if you just love your country, you're insane.
Okay, so there's video too. Let's see if you could get through the commercial. See if you can play that video, or
when you're about to watch a
is
riot,
it this one?
You get an Allstate commercial coming up first.
Police at scene of Southport stabbing his children. I said this is probably from the original event.
Yeah, I probably don't really want to see that, to be honest.
Okay. Assistant Chief Constable Alex Goss says there has been much speculation and hypothesis around the status of the 17-year-old male who is in police custody, and some individuals are using this to bring violence and disorder to our streets. This is why they claim to not release the identity and the motive. This is what they're worried about. If they release the motive of the Trump assassin, if they release the motive of that girl down in the girl, the girl. She was actually a girl who went and shot up the Christian school. Nashville, one that was gender confused. Like they don't. Whenever you don't hear the motive, you know it's something that would actually make the mainstream population rise up. No. So they try to control the information to us. They don't let us know what's going on, and people have had it, man. I don't understand. I mean, you look at even what France did with this Olympics thing. You allowed them to mock your national religion, and you also allowed your country to be taken over by Muslim men. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen how many churches burned down in France over the last decade.
The other day was just the 8th or 9th anniversary of the martyrdom of Father Emile, or that old French priest
who was attacked during mass, right?
Yeah, killed on the altar.
Killed on the altar. I mean, you guys mock your own faith and then invite this army essentially into your country. I think Europe is heading for decimation. I think this is going to be part of God's chastisement upon Europe for abandoning the faith.
I think
1,000%. If I have to meme myself, 1,000%. And what you see in this is that just like here in the States, we have stupid people enacting stupid decisions to feel better or to feel good about themselves, or in order to get money from a globalist society. At the end of the day, all of these societies want to push mass migration, whether that's legal or illegal, into the country. And the issue with this is, of course, the left always likes to blame the right by saying, you're racist, you're homophobic, X, Y, and Z. The reality is this has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with culture. Our cultures, which are defined by Christianity and by, European philosophies, etc., are being destroyed by individuals who do not value those said societies. And so what we need to do as individuals is say, yeah, let's get these knuckleheads out of power, which is going to have to take more than just voting. It's got to take some real work in order to get these guys out.
Rob, did you want to add something? I was going to say something about that.
I do have a video about the riot, but before that, I was just going to say, I don't know if Europe does, Europe as a civilization, as a people and culture, I don't know if they survive it or not, but either way, I think we're on the brink of probably the most horrifying and devastating and terrible race war the world's ever seen. I don't think Europeans put up with this much longer. And like I said, I don't know if they win in the end, but I think
it's going to be part of God's chastisement for his people. Probably. And that's going to be how he calls them back to him. So, now, Phoebe said we're doing this to ourselves too, we're doing this here too. But mm-hmm. America, it's part of the West, but it was never a Catholic country, right? Where when you look at Europe, you look at European history is Catholic history. There's no separating European history from church history. They're one and the same.
I mean, by the time America was formed, Christendom was basically dead, and we had actually kind of helped killed it.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
you could say continentally, you could actually say we were Catholic in certain pockets, Texas,
Right.
Florida,
Canada,
yeah, it's like
the
so large.
South America, and actually the abandonment of the faith is happening throughout the entire West.
Yeah, it's not unique to that. I mean, jokingly, but also semi-serious. It's like the Vatican's not a Catholic country, so we just need to understand that reality at the moment. But yeah, you're right. I think, Rob, there is going to be some type of cataclysmic event because look at all of the previous European elections that we've seen over the last year and a half or so. Most of the right-wing parties have gotten into power, and the only exceptions are France and the UK. The UK, because the Conservative Party completely abandoned its mission and its promise
Mhm.
to its voting base that they were going to rein in immigration. And you had, thankfully, Nigel Farage's Reform Party rise up, and that's what they were really focusing in on. And so they're going to have to suffer through 4 or 5 years of Labour leadership now, which is going to do absolutely nothing for the British people. And then, of course, with France, it was just Macron centrist liberals who decided to go ahead and back the socialists because they were so afraid of Marie Le Pen's party getting in and actually putting France first for their own people. It's insane.
There was a fiction book written probably 20 some years ago, shortly after like the war in Iraq started. I think it was written by an author named Ralph Peterson, I think. And I forget the name of the book, but it's basically this premise of a larger war in the Middle East taking place probably about now that had started after more or less a new Holocaust kicked off in Europe by Europeans against Muslim immigrants. And I think it's just amazing that that man foresaw such a thing 20 years ago. And I think we're really starting to see the beginning of it play out now.
Yeah, and this is something we should pray against. We should pray, obviously, for massive conversion in the Muslim population. Because war is never, I mean, outside of several instances of legitimate just war is a horrible, horrible thing that most of us just do not even understand how horrible war is. But you're right. Like, you cannot, at the end of the day, have two fundamentally opposed cultures in the same place. I mean, people who blame America for imperialism or blame the West for imperialism 24/7, they like to say, well, like, look, we shoved all of these tribes in Africa together and they were warring with each other, but we say get along and be their own country. But then those same people say, well, we should welcome the entire world into the West and we'll all be hunky-dory. It's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah, I you have to think it's intentional because they want to, because it seems like the elites are intentionally allowing not just immigration, but immigration from people that are so culturally different from us that they want to disintegrate whatever there is that unifies us as a country.
Yeah.
Right?
This was the book I just remembered, if anyone is interested. The War After Armageddon by Ralph Peters.
And this is a fiction book?
Yep. It's a fiction book.
All right. I might check that out. Need a good book to read. Thank you,
for your
Cigar
support.
Mate.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so it seems like they are intentionally bringing in people that have such completely different cultures from us so that we have absolutely nothing that binds us anymore. Like we were talking earlier about like Catholicism, right? And how Catholicism is meant, like, what is the purpose of religion? Religion is meant to bind us. It's like you're aiming at, I mean, it's going to sound very, oh, look who's here.
Hey,
Look who's here.
what's up, bro?
Oh, we're talking about
Yo.
people from the Middle East too.
What was that?
Nothing.
No, Rob. We were talking about immigration, and Rob made a Middle Eastern joke to our Iraqi friend over here. So,
Sorry, brother.
Oh no, the least people you want except in this country is from the Middle East. So the first people I pick out, I can tell you that I'll be the first person to run that operation.
I was making the point. I said the part of the reason it seems like they're allowing all this immigration in is to take away anything that binds us as a people. I was saying how, like, the whole point of Catholicism is our religion is meant to bind us together. And it seems like they fractured that in the 60s by introducing this new rite that we go and we worship with. So that kind of fragmented the church to make it so that we're not even unified as Catholics anymore. They desensitized all of our sensibilities of just even our Catholic sensibilities. They've desensitized. So there's nothing that unites us as Catholics anymore. You can't even get any of us to agree on anything. I actually saw left-leaning Catholics defending what happened at the Olympics, saying that we need to chill out and, it's just art, things like that. So by bringing all of these different cultures into the U.S., there's nothing left that binds us. And it seems like something that they're trying to even maybe divide and conquer, so that there's, as long as we're all at odds with each other, we'll never look at them. It's just a way to keep us fragmented to the point where we're arguing about the gender stuff, we're arguing about all these stupid things, and never at any point do we all look at each other and go, look at what they're doing to us. They are actually taking any ability we have to support our families. They're taking away, they're destroying our economy, they're destroying our livelihood, they're destroying our children. None of us ever focus on the real problem because we're all fighting with each other.
Does anyone know a good artist that can redo the Divine Mercy image into a masculine Jesus? Would this be sacrilegious? I mean, it wouldn't be sacrilegious to do an image, but I'm afraid artists aren't really my...
if anyone can do it, it's Chris from
Veritas. Veritas, yeah.
Yeah.
He knocked it out of the park, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to your point, Anthony, everyone should go and check out. I'll pin it, or I'll put it in the comments section once I can remember it. I'll go back into the video and put it in the comment section. But there's do you guys know the John Birch Society? You guys have heard of them before?
Yeah.
Yeah, the John Birch Society is a old school paleoconservative American political organization that's infamous for its anti-communism. It's a fantastic organization. They put out several documentaries, particularly during the BLM riots, talking about how communists go into communities and they try to divide people by, instead of what you would think, which is like, hey, let's break down barriers and all be equal. Right? No, it's let's divide people by race, let's divide people by class, let's divide people by gender. Depends on what group you're trying to target, but let's divide people in order to get across some type of deconstruction agenda, a deconstructionist agenda of dechristianizing it, perhaps, or destroying the male-female dichotomy that you do see in nature. It doesn't really matter. So all of these things make sense that they're happening because we have communists, we have Marxists who are doing these things. Maybe they don't use those titles to describe themselves, but their policies are those things. So it makes all the sense in the world. It's like Kamala Harris at the moment. Kamala Harris is 1000% a Marxist in her ideology. I put up on Instagram today a famous video of her saying, illegal immigration is not a crime. I know a crime when I see it. It's not a crime. If you have that happen in the United States, we have no country left.
Oh man. All right. So we're gonna go over to locals. We're gonna talk to Enoch. We're gonna maybe we'll bring up some of the conversations me and you had this weekend, Enoch, because we had some good conversations.
Yeah.
Did you want to play this short riot video before we go?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. So we were talking about what's going on in the UK right now. In the UK, 3 little kids were stabbed by a Muslim, and these are the riots actually going on in the UK of English people standing up and fighting back. It's only a matter of time before people have had enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
I think I saw some Koreans on the rooftop.
Oh, that's great.
It's only a matter of time before people actually do rise up. And I think what we saw on January 6th was the government giving us a warning, like, if you guys rise up over here, you're all this is the punishment you guys are gonna get.
January 6th, or do you mean July 13th?
No, I mean January 6th. Okay. That's what I mean. You think about all the people that went to prison for 23 years and things like that. That was them giving us a little warning. Yeah, you guys better not get cute and think you're gonna rise up when you've had enough. So, let's see. I'm doing an Iraqi accent. All right, we're gonna go over the locals. We got a bunch of stuff we're gonna talk about. If you guys are not on our locals, you guys are missing out on. Usually, that's where we do the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you guys do enjoy the show, please
hold on.
come
let
over.
me before we go, let me pull up the local link so people can go to it for this video.
Okay. Yeah, Enoch, you got anything you want to promote before we hop off this end?
No, not really. Happy to be with you guys. Thanks again.
My favorite interviews.
Go subscribe to Enoch's channel. Go check out his music. Go check out anything he's
Yeah,
done.
just YouTube. YouTube would be cool. Go on my YouTube channel, check out the music.
All right, we're gonna go over to the other side. We're gonna talk about mine and Enoch's weekend first. We'll see. We'll see what Enoch thought of hanging out in New York.
Yeah, I need to ask him if you actually prepared the burrata or if it was your wife.
Oh, my wife did everything.
Yeah, I figured.
I wanted him to enjoy it. Of course, I let my wife prepare it. All right, we'll see you guys over there. Rob, take us out.